Now it's time for Batter Up with JP. JP's guest on this week's Batter Up is former right-handed pitcher that spent time with the Baltimore Orioles, New York Yankees, but perhaps best known for his years with JP's Toronto Blue Jays. He went 8-1 in his first season in Toronto in 2003 and became the Jays' most dependable pitcher in 2005, finishing the season with a team-leading 13 wins. A favorite of JP's. Let's bring on Josh Towers. Josh, how you doing?
I'm good, sir. How are you?
Very good. Welcome to Batter Up with JP.
I appreciate you saying the good years too, not the bad years. There's some bad ones in there.
Well, we try our hardest here.
No. Hey, Josh, great to have you. Thanks for doing this. Yeah, John already alluded to it. One of my favorites for a lot of reasons. What kind of a sidebar, Josh, Uncle Roger Frash and I played together in the Mets organization, so we had a connection there. But my background with Josh goes back a long way. We'll get into it, but really, really happy to have him on. I think the listeners will find out he's not shy, and it's one of the reasons why he had the success he had at the major league level. But thanks for joining us. Great to have you on. Always good to see you. You look great. So I ask everybody this question. This is my opening question.
Yeah.
When did you fall in love with baseball?
Oh, wow. Without knowing, probably when I was 3 years old, and I'll tell you why. But probably intentionally, like where I was conscious of it, I think it was like probably 1984. So I was about 6 or 7 years old. I remember seeing photos of me like 1980-ish. So you guys were probably in Lynchburg or something, I think. But I remember seeing photos of me in Mets pajamas because of Roger. Roger's playing. I think he was drafted in 80. And so I'm assuming at that age, like as a kid, I wanted to be a Met. I wanted to be you guys. And so I wanted to be my uncle. So I remember seeing all those photos of me. So I'm assuming there was a young addiction to it. But it was about 84 where I really got into it as a kid, where I wanted to start playing baseball. And then I remember my uncle was finished. I still don't know why, but he was finished. But in my head, Darryl Strawberry went to the big leagues and took Roger's spot. That's how I perceived it as a kid. So now I want to be Darryl Strawberry.
So did Roger.
Yeah. So I tried to emulate Darryl. When I was 8 years old, I taught myself how to switch hit up and down the street. And so like my whole life, I switch hit because if we're playing wiffle ball or something, you got to bat the way your favorite players batted. And I wanted to be a Met. And I wanted to be Darryl my whole life.
So you sign out of junior college, you get drafted in the 15th round.
Yeah.
So for most people out there that are listening, they understand the draft, but they don't really understand the draft. So the 15th round is not a huge high round. It doesn't come with a huge bonus. Obviously, you're a junior college guy, so you got some options. Maybe you're going to go to a 4-year school. So walk us through that. Why did you sign? What were you thinking at the time?
Yeah, it was just an addiction to baseball. Like I didn't play other sports. I really encourage it now. I didn't do it because I was told not to. I just didn't play because I didn't want to miss baseball. I just wanted to play baseball year round. I was so in love with the sport. Coming out of high school, I was a good local player. Like I played all the positions. I pitched. I did all the stuff. Played shortstop. Played third, but I wasn't great. I think I had one offer from maybe the University of Redlands or something like that. But nothing. No, maybe one Met scout. I signed one of those 3x5 note cards. What's your name type thing. And then all of a sudden, my only option truly was to go to junior college. And so I went to Oxnard, where Roger went, where all the guys went. I was always going there, even though I lied to them at the time. And that all of a sudden, like that fall season, we're training on the beach, doing our running over there and stuff. It was great. Something clicked all of a sudden, and I got really good really fast. And so now all of a sudden there's 15, 20 scouts at every game. And I knew probably during the second semester that I was going to be drafted. And at that time, after my freshman year, I could have went to Texas Tech. That's the only like true school that was like, we want you after your freshman year. And then after my sophomore year, I had rides to like Miami or USC waiting for me. But there was no chance I was going to college. I don't care where, if I got drafted, I didn't care where and when I was going. And so when Gil Kupski drafted me with the Orioles, I remember him saying that at one point, we can draft and follow you if you want. And I was like, nah, you made the mistake of drafting me, dude. I'm gone. I don't care I don't care how much you get or give me, I'm going. And so him and Raj went outside and negotiated a couple bucks, and the rest is history.
And what people don't understand is that California junior college baseball at that time was really, really good. very competitive.
Yeah.
And, we used to get a ton of players from California, Florida, and Texas. Those were the junior college hotspots. Obviously, there were different places around the country, but junior college baseball was really competitive when you were there.
What I didn't know at the time, I mean, I learned right after the draft, but we have more junior colleges in California than the rest of the country has combined. So if you're like all state in California, then you're all country or you're all American no matter what. I didn't realize that we had dwarfed. And so it's still like that today. California has their own collegiate World Series, and then the rest of the country has their collegiate World Series, which I believe is in Grand Junction.
So you signed, and where'd they send you right away? Bluefield?
Yeah, they sent me to Bluefield. Yeah,
that's a swing. That's a swing in town.
It was awesome, right? Like you know what? This is my favorite thing about like the transition too. I got some. I mean, right now I can see the plane going into where it looks like it's going to hit the mountain, and then it just goes right up over. But like I remember giving an interview for the local newspaper at home when I was in junior college, and Pat Woods was my coach, and I said blah blah blah, Pat blah blah blah. And the next day at practice, I got ripped. My name is not Pat. It is Coach Woods. My bad, dude. My bad. I didn't mean anything bad by it. Fast forward a month later, I signed with the Orioles. I'm in Bluefield. Bobby Dickerson's my manager. And I say, Coach Dickerson, and I get chewed out like nobody's business. My name is Bobby. It's not Coach Dickerson. I'm like, I can't win for anything. I don't know what to call you guys.
Yeah, that happened to me my first year playing. I said to the manager, I said, so what do I call you, coach? He goes, no, I don't call you player. So don't call me coach. It's skipper on my first name. I said, okay. So yeah.
That's the most fun things like people don't get, like when you get to the big leagues and you get comfortable and you do that stuff. Like, when they come to the mound or on the dugout and you're messing around with your manager and you're calling them, different things like that to just rattle them up just because you can for fun. Yeah.
Well, if anybody's going to rattle anybody, you had no problem doing that. So you walk us through your progress through the minor leagues. Tell us how your career kind of unfolded, and then when you get to AA, I'll tell you when I met Josh Towers.
Yeah, God, it's so weird. I really think about it and compare it to today's game a lot now because it's so different. Like I try to stay in the loop of how the game has evolved. So when I'm talking to kids that I have that are in farm systems now, or the kids that are in college that will get drafted this year, I try to be able to speak their language. But it's so different, man. I feel like we were so much luckier. I didn't have to impress anybody. I didn't know that I wasn't supposed to make it to the big leagues. It's like you guys gave us a uniform, and so we were all equal to us. Like I know there was a prospect list, but that didn't mean anything to anybody. We just went out there and played, and if we did well, we tried to earn a promotion to whatever the next level was, and that was it. And the end goal was always the big leagues, and there was nothing else. There was no other. We didn't steer off in any direction. It was just, all right, the big leagues is up there, and how do you get there? I feel bad for these kids today because it's such a different business on how they're going to make it or how they're going to get drafted. It's a wild game, but again, for us, we all got drafted. Some people got more money, some people didn't, and then you send us somewhere and we go. It started out kind of crazy. I went to Bluefield and I was just a middle reliever, and I didn't do very well. I remember one inning I gave up a solo, a 2-run and a 3-run homer in one inning, and I was like, oh, this is what this is about? That's awesome. But after that, they ran out of pitch. Coincidentally, so we won the championship in Bluefield my first year in '96, and I went home. And so I'm close in California to high desert. I'm about 2.5 hours to Victorville. And I get a call from somebody in the organization. They're like, hey, does anybody call you yet? And I was like, no, about what? What do you mean call me? And they're like, we need a pitcher in high desert. Can you go? And I was like, what do you mean, can I go? First off, you're my boss. Second off, I'm just sitting at home doing nothing. I've been home a week. And I was like, yeah, I can go. And he's like, really? No one called you? And I was like, you're the first call, dude. He's like the dude who books the flights and stuff. Yeah. And so I go up there and I did really well in the postseason. I pitched twice and like 4 scoreless. And they're like, why don't we have you earlier? So then fast forward to the next year, I was, I think I was in low A ball in Del Mar for 3 weeks. And then I went to high A as a middle reliever. And then in 1998, it's when it's all changed. I was a starter in Frederick in 98. And I didn't know this. Again, I didn't know. Like we ran hard off the field, but we ran hard on the field. We made sure that they mirrored each other. And like in the clubhouse, I would have 2 gloves, right? I have a black glove and I have a brown glove. And I like black on the gloves, but I had both. And Howie Clark or whoever would be on my team, I would give them one of the gloves and I would go on the other side of the locker room. This is how our start would go on start day. And that person, usually Howie, would pick my glove. So we'd play catch in the locker room and then he would trade gloves and play catch. And then he would decide what glove I pitched with. And that's about how much thought we put into this nonsense. And then one day towards the end of the year, I read an article from, I can't think of his name now. I don't know if he's still on ESPN. I'm not sure, but he's super famous. Not Tim Kirchin, but one of the other guys, super famous guys. And he wrote an article and he's like, the Orioles got this kid, Josh Towers, who he pitched 145 innings this year. In 145 innings, he walked, I think, 7 guys or 9 guys. I walked 9 guys and he hit 11. And then it said an asterisk, like obviously I'm intentionally hitting guys on purpose, which I was. But like, I didn't know at that time that I had gone like 70 innings scoreless or 70 innings without walking somebody. I didn't know that I had only walked 9 guys the whole season. I didn't know any of this. We didn't look at stats. We just played. And I feel like, again, so lucky to have played in that era to where none of that mattered. But that's when I first learned that, like, oh, you got something here as far as like, that's your thing. Your thing is like, you throw strikes whenever you want. And so that's one of the many, but one of the early lessons I learned about starting to shape who you are as a pitcher and how you approach your games. And when I learned that I have control, I learned how I can slowly manipulate the hitters with that, right? So if I'm gonna have a lot of control and the hitters know I have a lot of control, so then they're gonna be more aggressive by default. Well, then I can use that to my advantage. I mean, it's like Mariano or Burley or any of these guys who have one pitch, right? Well, I know that this pitch is coming. Dave Risky just threw a 4-seam fastball, right? I know one pitch is coming. And so from a hitter's mentality, if I'm looking for this pitch and I see it, then more than likely I'm going to swing based on muscle memory and all the other things that factor in. So then for that means to me, I can expand the plate, because if I give you what you're looking for as a hitter, it's yes, yes, no. It's not no, no, yes. So if I give you what you're looking for, then as soon as you see it, your brain says swing. So then I bought myself 2 or 3 inches off the plate. And I started to learn that. It's like, again, it's one of the more valuable lessons I learned. There was quite a few of them along the way.
Well, I think one of the big things that kids in the minor leagues struggle with is understanding who they are and staying within the strengths that they have. So I know at that point now you get to AA, and this is my introduction. So I'm watching Josh in Bowie, right? I believe it was Bowie, and fastball in the inner half commands it, fastball in the outer half commands it. Pitches with great tempo on the mound, off the mound, all through the quadrants, little cutter, just hitters off balance and just setting the whole tempo and dominating. And I'm like, this guy's stuff isn't big, but there's something here. And so that's my introduction to you in AA. And now you start to get through AA, and you start to get to AAA, and then you get to the big leagues. So tell us that transition from the AA jump to the big leagues and how you stayed within what you believe got you there.
Yeah, I got a couple things here. This can get long-winded, but you talk about like starting to learn who you are, right? And you have to. I mean, we can't try to be everybody. I remember Josh Banks had like 7 pitches. I don't even know how you do that. And I'm like, Banksy, you got too many pitches to work, stretch, and wind up. Too many pitches to work, stretch, and wind up both sides of the plate. Like, how do you have enough time to throw all these pitches in a bullpen? You can't work on them. Then you're going to take one of these in a game that you haven't thrown in 6 weeks. How do you expect it? Like, it's like, we got to simplify the process. It reminds me of Jose Bautista. I've seen Jose a lot this offseason because he owns part of the soccer team here in Vegas. I mean, that dude bounced around, always had talent, but all of a sudden he gets to Toronto and he figured out who he was. And he just honed in on who Jose Bautista is, and that's it. And he becomes this massive star in our game because he wasn't trying to do everything. He was trying to do just who he was. And that's what AA was such a great year too, man. I mean, it was just all the prospects, and you start to realize that you're on the level of all these guys who teams think that they are going to go to the big leagues, and you start to appreciate it. I got to AAA the next year. 2 things real quick. I think there's a lot to be said when you start somewhere and finish somewhere in the minor league season, like seeing a season through. I think it does a lot for the development and the teaching of us players, and I think it's a lost art. Also in the Orioles farm system, and this relates to today, before I get to AAA, Sid Thrift had this thing that we did. I talk about this all the time. Sid Thrift had something in the minor league system with the Orioles called the 12-second rule. And we didn't know what it was. All we knew was If I do, let's say, a fastball down and away to a right-handed hitter and he swings and misses or fouls it off, something successful for me. If I throw that pitch within 12 seconds, the chances of getting the same result is 96%. This is all we were taught. So what we were taught in the minor league system with the Orioles was to work fast. Get on the mound and throw a pitch within 12 seconds. Work fast, work fast, work fast. So what does that do? It keeps the game going. It keeps my defense on the toes. It keeps me athletically inclined for PFPs and whatnot. It keeps the umpires ready to rock and roll. And so we learned that it rushed hitters. It caused hitters to hurry up and get in the box and hurry up and swing. You ever see a hitter like Dunner and I, Mike Dunn and I used to do this, the opposite, but you ever see a hitter get up and he puts his hand up to call time, he puts his hand up first.
Yep.
I would wait. And as soon as I saw the hand come off the bat, I would throw the pitch because he wasn't given time yet. And then that would cause him to go, oh, and feel rushed. And as soon as the hitters feel rushed, he's going to swing 100% of the time.
Right.
And so the 12-second rule taught us so many things. And now I look at this clock in baseball and how they're looking at it like a negative. And I can't think of anything more positive for pitchers than you gave me a built-in excuse to rush hitters. Like, I don't understand. Like, it's such a benefit to these guys. Yeah. But dude, we get to AAA, and now I'm in AAA, and I got Major League Baseball players that I've seen on TV are now my teammates, right? And the game has changed, right? And I remember we're in Columbus one day, and I tell them all the time, every time I see him, Wayne Kirby lives here in Vegas too, and I tell him all the time when I see him. For what reason, I have no idea. We're in Columbus. He's playing left field. And I've been there. You're this guy that's up and down at the end of your career, and you're back down in AAA, and you're absolutely miserable. And I give up 2 solo homers in the first inning to like dead center, and so we're down 2-0. And we come to the dugout. I'm mad. I fire my glove down, and WK just all of a sudden out of nowhere comes up, and he's standing right in front of me, and he just starts cussing at me. You effing pitchers, you effing P words, like, you guys need to man up. You need to throw inside. Away. And he just starts mother effing me the whole time. And he's yelling at me to pitch inside and to grow a pair. And I'm sitting there like, I just look on my face. I'm just scared because I don't know why Wayne Kirby's yelling at me. I don't know what I did, and I don't know what to do. So I'm just wearing this onslaught of like, why is this dude wearing me out? And he's talking about how he sits in left field and watches us pitch like sissies all the time. And dude, I don't think I didn't pitch in the rest of the game. And I ended up going 9 innings and just gave up the 2 runs. That was it. And ever since then, like, it changed my life on pitching in. Like, I thought I pitched in until that point, and I guess I realized I didn't. And then for me, a guy who doesn't have plus stuff, a guy who relies on control, like, now I have to pitch in for success. And if that moment doesn't happen, I don't know if I have a big league career. Like, there's these moments over time that for whatever reason, I always feel like people who don't know you the best, they always give you the best advice because they're not afraid whether you're going to not like them afterwards. Jim Palmer was like that with the Orioles. I would just hear it down the hall when I'm walking. Throw your changeup. Jim's got to be around here somewhere. Just yelling at me to throw my changeup. And there's just these moments for whatever reason, somebody felt the need to say something. And my son does that too. He's like, I remember we have a kid who's at Reno. He's like, why do you let my dad talk to you the way he does? And he goes, your dad's the only one who's ever honest to me.
Right. And
it's because of these
most
moments.
most players, they may not want to hear it.
No.
But they know you're telling them for the right reason.
Right.
So fast forward, you get to the big leagues. So I become the GM in Toronto, and I've always
back up. No. I'm in AAA, and I'm sitting in my locker one day, and I didn't get it. I've always wanted to play with my country's numbers, like letters on I've always wanted to play for the United States in any format. I've always wanted to play for my country. I don't think there's a bigger honor. Now, I didn't get to do that, but one day I'm in AAA and I get something that tells me I was nominated to be on the Olympic team. And I'm thinking to myself, where did this come from? I think
this is 90
2000.
This is 2000. Yes, 2000, right.
Yeah. Okay. And I know Rick Krivda got to play on the team, and he was in my locker at that time. But I was like so honored to be nominated. And for the life of me, I couldn't figure out like who nominated me, why, well, who. And then I hear JP Ricciardi nominated me for the Olympic team. And I'm like, who's JP Ricciardi? Like, how do I meet this guy? Like, why does he have my back? I don't even think I know this man. So yeah.
So this is funny because I was on the Olympic committee for the 2000 2004. I think 2004 we won the gold. I can't remember.
Really.
Anyway, so I was part of the selection committee, and we're going to play all these teams. And some of the guys are on the selection committee. They want to put every prospect in baseball on the team. And I'm arguing with them. I'm saying, these guys aren't going to get the Japanese out. They're not going to get the Cubans out. They don't know how to pitch. They're prospects that are going to pitch in the big leagues, and they're going to be big stars. We need guys that know how to pitch. So I obviously I was a big fan of yours. So I had pushed you. I forgot about that story.
And it was obviously different back then too, because I don't think we can take the major league guys and put them on the team back then.
No, you couldn't. We had to. In 2000, we had to qualify. Yeah. So we had to qualify, and then 2004, we went to the Olympics, but we couldn't go to the Olympics unless we qualified. So that was the Pan American Games. But
gotcha.
Yeah, I forgot about that story. So anyway, long story short, that's another story. But so I'm in Toronto, and we got no money, and I see Josh as a 6-year free agent. I said, "Son of a gun, I'm going to get him." So the Howie Clark, I'm on the phone. I'm talking to you guys like you're like Ohtani. I got to get these guys because I know they're good players. I know that we don't have a lot of money. I know we have opportunity. So, we end up getting Josh.
Dude, let me tell you. So 01, I have a pretty good year in my rookie year with the Orioles, and then I'm not the guy, like, I didn't know this at the time. I learned this in Toronto, but I didn't know that I go back to my college days and my high school days and how I grew up, and I know it now, but I'm not the guy that you pat on the back and say, good job, and you hand them presents and stuff. I'm the guy that, like you say, you can't do it. You're not good enough to do this. And then I'm like, what? I didn't know that about myself. So my rookie year, I have a good year, and then I have a bad second half of the season, and then my second year, I was one of the worst of all time. I was 0-3 in the big leagues. I got sent down. And the Orioles, I gave me the key to the city and say, we want you to be our guy. We wanted you to put the team on the back. And I didn't, again, same thing happened when you gave me a contract. It's like I didn't know what to do in essence. And so 02, I go 0-3, and then I think I went 0-9 or 0-7 in AAA, and I get released. So the offseason, I moved back to California, and I don't know what this means, like getting released. I'm scared. I don't know what it means. I never had this happen. And so Joel Wolf's my agent, and he calls me one day and says, hey, you're going to sign with the A's. And I say, perfect. First team to call, whatever. Let's go sign the contract. I don't even want to sign it. Just agree to it. Let's go. So he's like, you cool? And I'm like, I'm cool. Like, just get me a job, dude. I don't care. So he goes, all right, you're going to Oakland. Perfect. So we hang up the phone. My phone rings 5 minutes later. And it's 5 minutes later, he calls me and he goes, hey, train your plans. You're not going to Oakland. You're going to Toronto. And I was like, bro, okay, fine. We're going to Toronto. Can you please sign it? Can you just ink it up? Like, what do we need to do? And I guess what he told me was, from the call to me saying you're going to Oakland, he hangs up, you had happened to call through right at that time about another player that he had. And he happened to mention to him while I was on the phone, Josh Towers going to sign with Oakland. And you said something to the extent of, no, he's not. He's coming to Toronto. The only reason they want him is because I put him on a list that if he's ever available, get him. And he's not. He's coming to Toronto with me. And so Joel goes, all right, we're going to Toronto. And that's it.
Yeah, that was it. So I turned in my list about guys you want to sign as 6-year free agents. And obviously you're on my list. But now I get the job in Toronto. And Joel played for me in the minor leagues.
Did he really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I had Joel in the minor leagues. And I call him up. I said, Joel, there's no way. I said, I know that kid better than anybody. Those guys don't even know who he is. He's coming to Toronto.
Yeah.
So you come to Toronto, and we had a really good team in 03. We played really, really well. But you come in and you go 8-1, and you give us a big shot in the arm. And guys are saying to me, like, who is this guy? Where'd you find this guy? And I said, I just scouted him for a long time. I said, you stick with what you like.
Yeah.
But what a great year that was.
Sid Thrift always said that, and I didn't realize, but Sid Thrift used to say that, like, Josh Towers didn't know he wasn't supposed to make it to the big leagues. And I thought that was a compliment to, like, not just myself, but like how we were raised in the systems. And it was the same thing, like coming over to Toronto, like, all right, so you gave me an opportunity. You guys gave me a new number, and it was like, all right, you're going to AAA, work yourself to the big leagues. But then when I got to the big leagues, and I got to be honest, I shouldn't even say this, but if it wasn't how they handled McGowan in the minor leagues, I'd probably never get to the big leagues because the minor league side didn't handle him very well. And it created this opportunity for me to go to the big leagues. But the one thing there was like, I got to pitch behind Roy Halladay, like right after Roy that year. And Roy, I think, I don't know, was that year he won the Cy Young? It was
Yeah,
one year
03.
where he 19 times. So imagine this. 19 times that year he faced either the Yankees or Boston, I think. Like he almost every 4-game set, I'm gonna get him twice.
Yep.
And he wins the Cy Young. I remember 2 years in a row, Kurt Schilling somehow miraculously didn't face the Toronto Blue Jays 2 years in a row, and he's in our division. Yeah. I mean, we knew his pitches and we lit him up, so he probably had his feelings hurt a little bit. But I got to pitch after Roy, and the way I saw it was like, those dudes are going out and getting hammered. No one likes facing Roy Halladay. Their bats are all broke. They're getting jammed. They hate it so much that to them, it's like, one, I got a day off facing Josh, but two, we're going to go get drunk. And I just took advantage of it. I appreciate Roy for that.
Well, that's a pretty good guy to follow and a pretty good guy to I obviously, we miss him, but
yeah,
God, for every fifth day, I was the only time as a GM I ever relaxed and said, I know we got a shot. We got a shot tonight with Doc.
You know how the years were in the bullpen? And like, I was like, whenever I was terrible, you guys throw me in the pen. And we'd be sitting in the pen. I remember in Anaheim one day, I was so mad. I was so mad. Dude, like when Roy pitches, he's going 9, right? 8 maybe, but he's going 9. And so we have the day off if you're in the pen. And I remember like one day, like he's giving it up in like the first inning. And to get to Roy, you got to swing at the first pitch. And I remember he gives up like 7. And the first inning in Anaheim, the phone rings. And I had went out the night before because we knew we weren't playing. And I'm like running through the heat in like the second inning in Anaheim coming into pitch. I was so mad at Roy that day. I'm like, bro, what? Like, you can't just, what is going on right now?
Well, he had to show you he was human once in a while.
No, we didn't like it, man. He was the greatest thing. Bro, this is the stuff that you don't know. But
I should know this stuff.
No, not that. Like when we had Ted Lilly on the team, and Ted Lilly, we can't sit there for 9 innings and watch a game. It's not going to happen. And there's a couple of years where Roy was like the police officer. Like he wanted us on the bench, and we couldn't do it. And like I remember every 7th inning, Lilly and I would go inside and do abs and stuff. And like we always had something, but Ted would always get like cheap for somebody to order sushi in the stadium, and they'd bring it down during the game. And he would be like, Roy couldn't find him anywhere. And Ted would be on the bathroom stall eating the sushi with his feet up. So, because Roy would be looking for him. Oh, man, like the shit that we would do, like just the little stuff that just made me laugh all day. And Roy would be looking all over. He can't find Ted. He's standing on the toilet seat eating sushi.
That was funny stuff. That was a good group of guys. I really enjoyed that group. People don't realize that you had a stretch there in Toronto where you were 30 and 22. Yeah, and you could throw your hat on the mound and beat the Yankees. I will never forget Yankee Stadium, watching you jackknife right-handed hitters pitching inside with so much confidence, and just Gibby and I would talk about it after, say that friggin' Towers, man, he ain't afraid of anything. They said you put him in the middle of Yankee Stadium, and we'd be lining up the rotation and say you can count on Towers in Yankee Stadium. He is like money.
But doesn't it teach you the mental side of the game too? Like, because you, as you know, like Boston was the complete opposite. I hated the stadium. I hated the city. I hated the fans. I hated the clubhouse and the water dripping down the tunnels.
All right, so I got to cut you off here because you just segued me into the best story ever. All right,
bro, I didn't know this until Roy's services. When you told this story, I was so mad because I'll never forget. I'm gonna let you tell the story, but when I was warming up, I was. In my head, I'm going, why am I getting loose right now? Like, are you sure he said Josh? I'll never forget this.
All right. So for the people that are out there listening, and Josh is a good sport about this. So as I mentioned, he dominated the Yankees. They hated to face him, but he couldn't get anybody out with the Red Sox. So we're playing a 4-game series in Toronto. I said, Gibby, we got to protect Towers. We can't pitch him against the Red Sox. He goes, Gibby. Wow, what do you mean? What do you I said, look at Manny's hitting like 700 against them. Poppy's hitting like 7. They got 900 RBIs. I said, it's not fair to Josh. We got to do what's right for the team. All right, what do you want to do? I said, nothing. We're giving him this series off. He's not pitching. I said, I'll talk to him. He goes, I'll talk to him. Don't worry about it. So anyway, we're in a really close game. We're winning the game. 7th inning, I look down, and Josh Towers is warming up. And I'm sitting up in the stands, and I'm sitting up in the box, and Alex Anthopoulos is my assistant. I said, when Eddie Goodell, the midget, came to bat with the Cleveland, anyway, Bill Veck told him, if you swing the bat, I got a high-powered rifle in right field, and I'm going to shoot you. So I'm sitting there saying to Alex, I said, if I had a gun right now, I said, Josh Towers wouldn't even make it out of the bullpen. I told Gibby, don't pitch this guy in this series. So I'm getting all fired up. Anyway, we win the game. I come down.
In the bullpen hot too. Like I was losing. I was like, honestly, it was like a 3-2 game in like the 7th or 8th inning, and I'm getting loose as if I'm coming in, and I'm like, I don't pitch in these games ever. Like if we're getting blown out, I'm in the 3rd. That's it. I couldn't believe I was getting loose, dude.
So after the game, I come in, and Gibby's leaning back in his chair. He's rubbing his belly, got his head behind his, and I says, Gibby, great game, good game, managed a good game. He goes, yeah. I go, but I got to ask you, what'd you get Josh Towers up for? I thought we went over this. He's not going to pitch against the Red Sox. Leans back. He just looks at me. He goes, I was just pissing you off.
It's like when comedians have these jokes that they tell that no one else knows what's going on, and it's only funny to them. Like John probably had the best laugh in the dugout with this dip in his mouth. Meanwhile, you and I were his punching bags of a joke.
That was but man, you did a great job.
You know what's funny? And again, this is the stuff that I love about our game, right? That people don't understand, and people don't know all the fun stuff. Like you have to do things like that to stay loose. You're going to lose your mind in baseball. I was coaching with the Mets in 2019, and we're in Hagerstown, and Hagerstown's bullpen's in right center. And so there's no communication. There's no phone to there. So in this day and age, I got my cell phone, and I have Alan Winans, who pitched yesterday for the Braves. I said, Alan, I need you to take your cell phone. You'll be my contact guy. And with the Mets, if you went 1 inning, you have a day off, 2 innings, day off, 3 innings, day off. It was a dumb rule, but that's what you had. So I had a kid that pitched 3 innings the day before. So he doesn't have his glove. It's a day game. He doesn't have his cleats. He has 0. And Alan calls his girlfriend and goes, hey, I'm gonna change your name in the phone to Josh Towers. He goes, I want you to text me in this inning and say, get so-and-so loose, the dude who pitched 3 innings the day before who was 100% down. So it's like the 5th inning or something, and I see Lasco jump the fence with 1 out, and he runs and he's sprinting into the locker room, and I'm going, what are these idiots doing? And I'm watching from the dugout, and I see Lasco sprint, and then next thing I know, he's back on the field. He jumps the fence, and the dude that had pitched the 3 innings before, he was like getting loose. He was stretching, and the next thing you know, he starts playing catch. And I'm like, what are they? So I call Winans, and he's dying laughing, and he tells me what he did. He's like, yeah, I had my girlfriend text me as if she was you to tell him to get loose just because we thought it would be funny. It's like, the stuff that we, especially relievers, man, we're so out of our.
Yeah, well, you got to keep it loose. You got so much dead time down there.
You have to. This is good stuff, man.
So I want to address the gorilla in the room.
Yeah.
I have my own thoughts, and I know I want to hear your thoughts as a former pitcher who was a reliever, who was a starter, who served different roles. What's going on with pitching today? What are your thoughts?
I got it all. I got it all, dude. And here's the thing. I feel very lucky because I'm in the amateur side, right? So I see the travel baseball at a young age. I'm associated with the high school across the street. All my boys are in college. And then the other kids that I have, they're all in the minor league system. And then I still deal with guys in the big leagues. And so I feel lucky enough to be in touch with every level of the game. And this is where I think where it gets divided is if you're in professional baseball, then you're kind of just stuck in professional baseball. And a lot of these guys think that they're better than these colleges or these high school coaches. And so all these levels kind of stay in their lanes, and they don't how do you expect me to talk to these kids that we draft and sign if I don't know where they came from or if I don't understand the language in which they're speaking? I think that there's a few things. One, we don't teach baseball. I couldn't tell you the last time we did first and thirds, defense or offense or anything at the high school. I can't tell you the last time we did cuts and relays. I couldn't tell you the last time we ever did PFPs. We don't do that stuff in the amateur level. And when I watch the boys in college do it, it's very minimal on what they do. All of these guys, everything is based on money. Travel baseball is based on money. They go find the best players in the round and they put them on a team. They don't practice, they play games. And I get this monthly stipend. That's why we've had 2 high school coaches, the best 2 high schools in our town. They just got fired yesterday. One suspended, one fired for illegal stuff, but it's all money based. And so there's no teaching going on. When I left the Mets in 20, and one of the scouts with the Angels currently, both of them told me, we're not drafting guys that we have to teach the game. We don't have time to teach the game anymore. We need to draft people that already know how to play the game. And I said, where are you going to find those? We don't teach it at the amateur level. College coaches have to be paid. They have to win. It's the only way they get paid. If not, they don't have a job. So they don't care about developing. They care about winning. So there's this broken, like it is this kinks in the armor along the way. It has to do with the computer as well. This thing right here, I think, is very bad for baseball. Like I tell my high school coach all the time, we have to teach the kids how to play the game before we can play the game. And we're not doing this. So I got travel ball kids playing every couple of weeks, no practice in between. And then all of a sudden, you haven't played for 2 weeks. And then you're going to pitch 2 games in 2 days or 2 games in 3 days. And then I go to college and I'm watching what they do in college, and everything is hard away, fastball away, slider away, fastball away, slider away. And everything is taught to be hard, hard, hard. You go to these, and I don't like this word, but these labs or whatever they call these stupid things around the country. And you watch these guys, they're crow hopping into fences and they're throwing as hard as they can. And the gun says 101 or 96. And everybody's screaming, you hit 90, you hit 100. Well, we don't pitch like that. I don't pitch out of control and I don't pitch uphill for sure. So then when you dial my body back in and I got to work back downhill to get the ball down in that angle to be over home plate, like it's nothing the way they're teaching. And so we're crow hopping, throwing as hard as we can, but I got to dial that back, and you can't do that when you pitch. So there's 2 completely different styles of throwing going on. And then you take me to professional baseball and, well, college baseball, the first sign of adversity, you're out of the game. So then I'm bringing in relievers. I mean, my son's college coach said, my goal this year is to use as many pitchers in a game as possible. And I said, so then his goal this year is to lose as many games as possible.
Right.
Like, doesn't make sense. So you go to professional baseball, and now you got these kids, they're not allowed to go past 4 or 5 innings, like 5 innings max, 6 innings is an amazing day. Well, as you know, the game's not on the line. 7th, 8th, and 9th inning, the game's on the line. I learned something in those innings. I used to say to Gibby all the time, I used to say this to the media, if a starter doesn't go 7 innings, he didn't do his job. And I used to tell John all the time, like, Johnny, if you pull me after 5 innings every day, I'm never going to have to work out. I'm never going to go to the gym. I'm going to go out every night because I don't have to do anything to pitch 5 innings. There's nothing on the line. There's nothing emotionally. There's nothing advanced about the game that I learned. I didn't have to face a guy 3 times. I didn't potentially have to face a guy 4 times. I don't have to learn anything. The deeper I go in the game, the easier it is for me to navigate the first half of the game. The deeper I go in the game, the more I learn how to use my pitches and condition myself and use my stamina. The other thing is this. If you want to know how to pitch the first inning of a postseason game, you better know how to pitch the 8th or 9th inning of a regular season game because they coincide. Well, we don't do that anymore. So these guys are getting pulled before they ever learn the game. And so now the 7th inning of a game to these guys feels like the 9th inning. We're letting them throw as hard as they can every pitch. So they're throwing 100 pitches in 5 innings. So then the innings, they get pulled with nothing on the line. And so I'm just able to air it out for those innings because I know I don't have to save anything to go deep. I mean, look what we did with Toronto last year. We pulled Berrios after 4 perfect innings in the postseason for a reliever against his former team. So a guy I give $100 million to, who's pitching better than anybody in the world can possibly be pitching in this moment. Right. I pull him for a bullpen of what I don't know is going to happen and why, right? So there's this combination of lack of teaching wrong, not letting them go deep, using the computer as if the computer doesn't tell you how to adjust. It doesn't tell you how to make changes. Right. It doesn't tell you what a swing does. Like if the downhill induced vertical plane is 16 to 19 inches, that's great. Well, if we all are in 16 to 19 inches, then we're all pitching the exact same. Right. We're all the same release point, the same everything. We can't do this. And so
I was talking to someone the other day, not to cut you off, but I was talking to someone the other day about pitching. And it used to be that you looked at a pitcher, and I'll use you as an example, a guy that was 88 to 91, and you watched how he could pitch, and you said, this guy is going to throw a little harder, but he already knows how to pitch,
Mhm.
and that's going to get better as he gets deeper into professional baseball.
Well, into
Now,
games, into a
now
season.
we're taking guys that throw hard, and we're trying to make them pitchers. And the cart's in front of the horse, because if you don't have that touch and feel, it's hard to learn touch and feel as you get deeper
And
in the
I believe there's a way to develop and win, but I also believe there's a way to teach control that leads to velocity. I have whatever I have, and I get it. Some kids have velocity a lot earlier, but that's always been the adage. Go draft me these arms, and we'll teach them how to pitch. Well, the problem is we're not teaching them how to pitch anymore because we don't have time. We cut the round from 57 to 40, then we cut it from 40 to 20. Then we cut 40 minor league teams. So now I only have an allotment of money. The draft, just so we're clear, the draft has really screwed the game up. So now I only have an allotment of money. And the draft of the first round kid's still going to get 6, 7, 8 million, right? So the amount of money I have only goes to about 4, maybe 5 guys. Well, I can't mess this up anymore. So the money I give it, those guys are automatically getting to the big leagues. The other 15 kids in that draft, I just got to draft some people, and I need positions filled in the minor leagues. So we're rushing these kids because I can't mess this. I can't admit that I screwed up a pick. So we're taking these guys and rushing them to the big leagues because I don't have enough players to create competition anymore. I don't have enough players to fill rosters. So we're rushing these guys to the big leagues. So now you got Churio and all these other guys in the big leagues at 20 years old that have no business being there. No disrespect. They're talented players, but they should probably be in AA learning the game. And now I'm watching them take bad routes. I'm watching these guys. I mean, watch the Marlins. I feel bad, but I can tell you by watching them what they did not do in spring training. I can tell you that they went through the motions of PFPs, or they went through the motions of anything, and they didn't play at game speed. Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan speak about this, like to their blue in the face, about how you have to practice the way you want to play. You have to, right? We created competition in spring training with the Jays for PFPs so that we were the best feeling. I'm going to field 2 innings of a game through my pitcher, right? So why not learn to get really, really good at that? So there's a disconnect with all of these things, and the draft is creating less competition and more. These guys are definitely going to go because I can't admit that I messed up. So we're rushing guys to the big leagues, and now they're trying to learn how to play the game at the major league level. There's no time for this at that level. It's too advanced. GP, I thought I knew the game. I was in essence a pitching coach in A-ball on my teams. When I got to the big leagues, I realized when I got there that I didn't know anything about baseball. It is not the same game.
No,
You don't want to teach anymore?
No, it's actually I've this conversation is great. We're gonna have to cut it off because we're running out of time, but we're gonna have you back on to continue to talk about this, because I think it is, there's an epidemic between the development of pitches, there's an epidemic of development of players, there's an epidemic of injuries, and we got to figure out why, because it's hurting our game. I told someone the other day, I think you're going to go to the Smithsonian and see a picture of Bob Gibson, and they're going to say, "Oh, that's what a starting pitcher used to be," because they're obsolete.
I don't think it's. I mean, I don't think it's like why. I think we know why. But again, if I like I was saying, if I'm trapped in professional level, if I'm trapped in the minor leagues, I'm trapped in the big leagues, I'm trapped in college, I'm trapped in high school, I'm trapped in travel, and they're not going to all the different levels and seeing the evolution of the kid in travel ball to the big leagues and not understanding like their development and what they are not learning, or what they're being told to do, or how they're. If you're not watching this progress and learning, then you don't understand why these injuries are happening. To me, these injuries are avoidable. Right? There's 4 things that we have to do: our core, our cardio, our cuff, and our throwing program. Those 4 things cannot be neglected. Well, guess what? When I was with the Mets, we didn't let them run. They were not allowed to run. So they could never build cardio. So I had guys gassing out in the 3rd inning because they weren't allowed to shag. So instead of having running, we sent them inside to do meditation. What did that mean?
Right.
That means I'm going to go play on this thing.
Right.
I think it's easy to figure out what the problem is. It's whether we're willing to go back and reteach these guys on how to earn and learn.
Well, I'm going to cut you off at that point because we're running out of time, but we are definitely going to have you back to finish this. I told the guys that I'm involved with that you were going to be entertaining and you were not going to be short on voicing your opinion, which is what I love about you. I've always loved about you. I want to thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, boys.
We'll get you back on at some point. John, anything you want to add before we let Josh get going?
No, it's such a fascinating conversation between you two, because there is an epidemic right now with pitching. You could just look at the rash of injuries. There's more guys on the IL already since 2023 than there was years previously. So this discussion that you're having, and what concerns me, and certainly concerns yourself and JP, is, how are the new generation? You're looking at a generational problem. So if the kids aren't learning right from the very start the right way, the way it used to be, and instead of chasing velocity and throwing as hard and not going deep into games, you're going to see more injuries. You're going to see more guys on the IL. There'll be pitchers signing multi-$100 million contracts to get injured in their second year. So Major League Baseball should really take a look at it. But unfortunately, the analytics guys are kind of running the show. But it's fascinating just to hear you two talk about it.
JP, can I have 2 more minutes? Can we have 2
yes,
more?
go ahead. Yes,
All
go
right.
ahead.
So I sat down with the Dodger scout the other day, and I was talking to him about this kid we got at UNLV and my son at LMU, and both are they have a chance to get drafted, but we'll see type thing. And he loves the kid at UNLV. And I was talking to him, and I was telling my son, and I was explaining to my son, I go, Ryan, the things that these guys don't see in you, the scouts and your coaches, they don't know that as the game goes on, your velocity is going to increase. And as the season goes on, your velocity is going to increase and you're going to get better. They don't know that because they don't realize the way we've trained our whole lives. Since you were 8 years old, I asked you, we had one group team, we had 10 players and we kept them together our whole lives. And I said, listen, I asked you guys when you were 8 to trust me. I said, we're going to do things backwards. Everybody else you see is going to do it a whole different way. You guys got to trust me. And I promise you, when you get to your junior year in high school, I'll teach you how to throw hard, but you got to trust me the whole way. And it's going to be hard because everybody's going to do it differently than we are. And I had 2 of them say, okay, my son and this kid at UNLV. And Ryan goes, Dad, it's crazy because in my velocities all year, I'm 87 to 88.1 the first 3 innings. And then the last 3 innings, I'm 88.1 to 93. I increased the whole way. And I said, it's the way we train. And so the same kid, Austin Cates at UNLV, I was telling Tom Myers this the other day. And Tom was like, oh, I didn't know you had Austin. I said, yeah, he's like my son. I've had him since he's 8. He's been on our team. I go, he's the only other one that bit into what I'm saying. And he goes, this is why his control is so impeccable. I go, he doesn't miss. He throws 7, 8 innings every game. He strikes out 10 or 11, and he does it on 80 pitches. Well, the strikeouts aren't me, but the 80 pitches are. The 7 and 8 innings are. Like, I've taught these kids a certain way that there's only 2 places of the plate, in or out. There's no middle. There's in and out. And if we work hard enough, it's easy to pitch to control. And then we go down to up, not up to down. And so these kids, they didn't open eyes at a young age because the velocity wasn't letting them grow up and throw it as hard as you can. But now they're opening eyes like, holy shit, these guys can pitch. So what happens is, and I'm going to show you guys in about 3 or 4 years, but these are the kids that I have, a couple of them, when they get drafted, they're going to be the ones that rush to the big leagues. And we're talking about how impeccable their control is, but it's getting them to professional baseball the way we chose to do it. That is hard. I have another kid who's Tanner McDougal with the White Sox, top prospect, throws 100, went the other way, was stuffed first, and now we're trying to teach him how to pitch.
So we'll touch back on that more later on. But I can't thank you enough for coming on. I know you're fired up. You're all fired up now. You won't need a Red Bull today.
No.
Listen, all the best. I'll catch up with you, and we'll have you back on. But thanks for coming on. Thanks for the time, and thanks for the info. Always great seeing you.
All right, see you later, dude. Good seeing you.
Take care, buddy.